education as students flood back to campuses across the country. A shocking reality, the prevalence of sexual assault.
Sexual assault, we were told, afflicts 1 in 5 or maybe even 1 in 4 women on a typical campus.
For a privileged white sexual offender at an elite university.
The guys are almost presumed guilty, not innocent.
Is in jail over the allegations against him.
With a now discredited story about a gang rape.
Lying about rape, falsely accused of rape.
She said something in her letter that she's reaching out to all of us that have been raped. Well, we too have got your back.
First question. Why did you want to do Really Really? What drew you into it?
I love acting. I've been acting for a really long time. I was in my first production in 3rd grade.
It's like I've been doing plays in theater basically since I started high school. Well, I've been this is my 4th year in OTL, so I obviously wanted to audition for both shows.
One of the things that OTL does is education. Like, yeah, we're a theater org, but we also do education.
I was the one that proposed Really Really when we did the show discussion.
So I think it's important for us to help tell these stories, to help keep people educated, and provide that kind of safe space.
I think that it's a really important story that's extremely timely considering today's social climate.
The Me Too movement was starting to pick up, and I just saw a huge societal relevance in the story being told in the text.
Not only did I find the story interesting, but I also found the characters interesting.
Like, it got me more into like characters that have to be very specific with their intentions and like practicing very like smaller tactics. And like in musicals, it's more like bigger expressions and like these over dramatic characters, and like in plays you don't really see that as often. So I wanted to give it a go.
I wanted to start a discussion here on Ohio State campus where the topic of sexual assault is relevant and topical, and that's the reason I really, really wanted to do the show.
One of the most intriguing parts of the play is that there's many ways it can be interpreted. What do you think about that, and how do you think that type of narration contributes to a larger conversation?
I think that it adds a lot of elements to the show that aren't found a lot in a lot of other theatrical productions, just because there's so many different characters that aren't the best people, honestly. So it adds a lot of tension as to what people are going to do and how they're going to react, because frankly they themselves don't really know what's going on. So that adds a lot of intricacies to the storyline.
I think that's sort of what makes it good theater.
This is a really difficult story to be telling, and we don't want people to be, taking the wrong lessons from it. But people are going to be getting different things out of it, and that's important.
As long as they watch the play, think about it carefully, and pay attention to things, they'll be able to leave with a completely valid viewpoint that should be respected.
I love anything that can be interpreted in multiple different ways.
Yeah, it forces conversation, I think.
So what's really interesting about this script is that the ending can be interpreted in different ways. And I think that's really relevant in today's society with events like the Kavanaugh hearings and a lot of allegations that as soon as they come forward, people scream lies, false. And I think it's a discussion that we have to have in society of we need to hear sides of the story before we call out what's true or what's false.
Truth is subjective.
Every serious artistic work can't just have one interpretation. There's all sorts of different viewpoints you can take things at.
The time that the play was written, even though it was like a handful of years ago, it was relatively recent, there was still an entire Me Too movement that happened in between the time that it was written and today when we're performing it. And so the interpretations that could happen today are very different
from the original interpretations. And I think if you read it in isolation and you read it with like its historical context, you will have a different interpretation. But like at Ohio State right now today, I think it'll be very interesting to see who interprets it like based off of current events.
Why do you think it's important that people come and see a really, really
You don't really get the opportunity to see such intense theater at such a low price, and also for like seeing your friends on stage. Like these are your peers, these are people you're going to see on campus.
Primarily because it's an entertaining show. I think all plays first and foremost need to be entertaining.
It's a good story that we're telling, so people should come see it.
Not only because our cast and crew are absolutely phenomenal for this production.
I think it's a really well-written play that that definitely deserves an audience and deserves conversation.
I think that it's good to spark conversation. It's also good to just like indulge in art when it's presented to you.
I think this show is a conversation starter. I think it is a discussion starter. It's not the most comfortable show. It's not the most happy-go-lucky show out there, but it's real.
It's a topic that's kind of become so prevalent in recent times that I think it's interesting to kind of see that element of kind of the bad side of humanity in a way that we can all kind of relate to as college students ourselves.
Education, being well-informed, helping people to just broaden their horizons.
And we're also the only theater org on campus that does stuff like this.
And shows a perspective that I think not a whole lot of people are really exposed to. They hear about a lot, but are not necessarily, experiencing in real life. So having